Rigveda was not incorporated into Hinduism until the 16th century. There's no direct link between Vedic civilization and modern-day Indian civilization. There's no direct link between the Vedic civilization ions and the Rigveda wasn't incorporated into Hinduism until the 16th century, long after the rise and fall of the Gupta Empire, which would be considered the origin of modern-day Indian civilization. The civilization associated with the composition and transmission of the Rigveda is often referred to as the Vedic civilization or the Vedic period. This era is characterized by the presence of the Vedic texts, including the Rigveda, which were orally composed and transmitted among the Aryan communities in the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent. The term Vedic is derived from the Sanskrit word Veda, which means knowledge or sacred texts. This civilization is considered a precursor to various aspects of ancient Indian culture and religious thought, including the early roots of what would later become Hinduism. The Rigveda's origin can be traced back to the ancient Aryan civilization that existed in the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent. The Rigveda was likely orally composed and transmitted among the Aryan communities between approximately 1500 and 1000 BCE. It's important to recognize that the Aryan civilization was just one of several cultural and ethnic groups coexisting in ancient India. While the Rigveda's ideas and culture did influence the broader fabric of ancient Indian society, the direct link between the Rigveda-era Aryan civilization and modern-day Indian Hindu civilization is complex and not linear. Hinduism, as a religion, evolved over centuries, drawing from various philosophical, cultural, and religious sources. The Rigveda's incorporation into Hinduism did not occur until much later, particularly in the 16th century. This period marked a significant milestone in terms of the formal transcription of Rigvedic hymns into written manuscripts, the engagement of scholars with its teachings, and its integration within the broader Hindu intellectual and religious context. While there may be influences from the Rigvedic period that contributed to the formation of Hindu thought and culture, the development of modern-day Indian Hindu civilization is a result of a multitude of factors. It encompasses various historical periods, cultural interactions, religious influences, and philosophical developments. In summary, the Rigveda's origin lies in the ancient Aryan civilization, and its influence on the evolution of Hinduism is acknowledged. However, the connection between the Rigvedic era and modern-day Indian Hindu civilization is not direct. The Rigveda's incorporation into Hinduism occurred centuries later, and the formation of contemporary Hindu culture is a complex interplay of diverse elements spanning millennia. In the 16th century, the Rigveda did not suddenly become a part of Hinduism in a dramatic or transformative event. Instead, this period marked a significant milestone in the preservation and consolidation of Rigvedic teachings within the broader context of Hinduism. Several key developments took place during this time. 1. Manuscript compilation. The 16th century saw the compilation of written manuscripts of the Rigveda. These manuscripts were likely based on oral traditions that had been passed down for centuries. The transcription of the Rigveda into written form allowed its hymns and verses to be preserved with greater accuracy and consistency. 2. Scholarly engagement. Scholars and thinkers of the time engaged with the Rigveda's teachings, interpreting its hymns and extracting philosophical and theological insights. This period witnessed a renewed interest in ancient texts, and the Rigveda's significance was acknowledged as a foundational scripture of Hinduism. Philosophers and theologians incorporated Rigvedic concepts into their discourses, contributing to its integration within Hindu thought. 3. Context of religious revival. The 16th century was marked by a broader revival of religious and cultural practices in India. This era saw the emergence of various religious movements and philosophical schools, each drawing inspiration from ancient scriptures like the Rigveda. The text's ideas resonated with the evolving religious landscape, contributing to its renewed relevance. 4. Cultural Renaissance. The 16th century also witnessed a cultural renaissance, with an emphasis on preserving and reviving traditional knowledge. This cultural context played a role in recognizing the importance of ancient texts like the Rigveda and their contributions to the shaping of Hindu thought. 5. Transmission and dissemination. With the proliferation of written manuscripts, the Rigveda's teachings could be disseminated more widely. This dissemination facilitated the spread of Rigvedic ideas beyond specific oral traditions or localized practices, contributing to its broader recognition within Hindu communities. 6. Institutional support. The establishment of institutions dedicated to the study of scriptures and philosophy further contributed to the Rigveda's growing prominence. These institutions provided a platform for scholars to engage deeply with the Rigveda and its implications for Hindu thought. It's important to note that the process of integrating the Rigveda into Hinduism was gradual and occurred over centuries. The 16th century served as a pivotal period when the Rigveda's teachings were formalized, transcribed, and recognized within the broader Hindu intellectual and religious milieu. This recognition and engagement laid the foundation for the Rigveda's enduring importance as a scripture that continues to be studied, recited, and revered within Hinduism today. The Rigveda, one of the oldest scriptures of Hinduism, was initially transmitted orally before being written down much later. Its earliest portions were composed in the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent, potentially between c. 1500 and 1000 BCE, with a broader estimation of c. 1900-1200 BCE. However, a direct link between the Rigveda and the Gupta Empire is absent. The Rigveda predates the Gupta Empire, and there is no record of the Guptas discussing or referencing it. While it's conceivable that the Guptas might have embraced Hinduism in the Rigveda during their rule, tangible proof supporting this notion is lacking. The earliest surviving Rigveda manuscripts date to the 16th century CE, long after the Gupta Empire's collapse. The possibility that the Rigveda wasn't part of the Gupta Empire's cultural fabric also exists. Although the Guptas are known for promoting Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, they also endorsed other cultures and traditions. The Rigveda might not have been deemed relevant to their cultural identity. The inquiry into the Guptas' relationship with the Rigveda is a topic of scholarly discourse. The truth likely resides in an intermediary standpoint. The Rigveda, credited to the migrating Aryans around 1500 BCE, comprises hymns and poems venerating deities like Indra, Agni, and Surya. These texts also contain philosophical and cosmological concepts that persist today. While the Gupta Empire was a historical zenith, heralding advancements in art, architecture, literature, science, and mathematics, it coexisted with a multitude of other cultures in India, including Buddhism, Jainism, and Vedic traditions. The Rigveda is divided into 10 books, or mandalas, with the first 4 being the oldest and the remaining 6 likely added later. The timing of the last 6's composition remains uncertain, but they are generally considered post-Mughal invasion. Crucially, the Rigveda was an oral tradition initially, not a written text. The hymns were passed down orally for centuries before being transcribed in various parts of India. The extant 16th century CE manuscripts are likely based on much earlier oral traditions. In summary, the Rigveda's earliest rendition was orally communicated between c. 1500 and 1000 BCE. While the main 4 books were later transcribed, precise dating remains elusive. While the Rigveda originated from migrating Aryans around 1500 BCE, the Gupta Empire was established in the 4th century CE. The Rigveda predated the Gupta Empire, yet its transcription came considerably later. The earliest surviving Rigveda manuscripts from the 16th century CE are likely informed by ancient oral traditions. The timing of its incorporation into Hinduism is a scholarly debate. Several factors add nuance. The Rigveda isn't a single, cohesive text but a compilation of hymns and poems, possibly composed at different times. The Gupta Empire's cultural influence might have impacted the Rigveda's preservation and dissemination. Hinduism's diversity complicates pinpointing a single moment of acceptance. In essence, the exact point at which the Rigveda was embraced by Hinduism is a subject of scholarly discourse. Nevertheless, its significance within Hinduism remains steadfast, as it continues to be recited and studied by adherents today.